In this video, I'm going to show you two new updates to Google Jamboard that make it just a little bit more functional for you to use with your students. And I'll also address some of the most common questions that have been coming up about how to use Google Jamboard. So I'm going to show you how to do things like bring an image in so that both you and your students could write on top of it. I'll show you how to make a copy of a Google Jamboard through Google Classroom. And I'll also talk about some of the issues such as whether or not there's a revision history and how you can determine which student has written on the board. My name is Sam Carey, and this is my YouTube channel for the new EdTech Classroom. One thing I do want to make clear before we get started here is that this video is about the web-based version of Google Jamboard. The reason I mention this is because there's also a physical product called a Google Jamboard, and that's really like a smart board. And this web-based version has some of the features of that physical smart board, but it's also different. And then there's also an iOS and Android version of Google Jamboard. The app version also has some different functionality, so I do plan to make a video about that in the future as well. All right, let's get started here by looking at the updates that were recently released for Jamboard, and then I'll also address some of the questions that have come up and show you some additional tips and tricks for how to use it. So to get to that web-based version, you're going to want to go to jamboard.google.com. You can also access Jamboard from your Google apps on the top right-hand side of the screen if you're on a Google page. And now that we're in, just a reminder that I do have another video all about Google Jamboard. So if you want to know all the ins and outs of how to use it, I recommend that you check that other video out first and then come back and watch this one, which shows you some of the updates as well as answers some of the nuanced questions about how to use it. So first I'll go down here to the orange add button and just create a new Jamboard. You'll notice that the tools that were previously available are still there. So you still have a pen tool, an eraser tool, a select tool, a sticky note tool, and an image tool. You'll also notice that below are two new tools. The first is a shapes tool, and the next one is a text box tool. The shapes tool will just allow you to bring some of these different shapes into Jamboard. So to bring one in, just click on it and then drag where you want that shape to go. And then you can resize it and rearrange it. You'll also see up at the top here that you can add a different backfill color to the shape, and you can also change the color of the outline of the shape as well. So these shapes might be a way that you could set up a custom graphic organizer directly here on Jamboard. But probably the most useful change is the addition of this text box tool. So if you were concerned about just using the digital pen and not really being able to type unless you typed onto a sticky note, now you can use that text box to add text wherever you want to go. So to use it, simply click it and then select where on the board you want the text to go, start typing, and then you can resize the box, drag it around wherever you want it to go. And then by clicking on the drop-down menu, you can also change the overall size, you can change the color, and you can change the alignment of the text as well. So for most situations, it's now probably going to make the most sense to show students how to use this text box tool instead of using the digital pen. I have had a lot of questions come up about using a stylus as the digital pen, and you can definitely use a stylus with the iOS or Android version of Jamboard, and that's actually a really good option with even more features than this version. So if you have access to styluses and tablets and even smartphones, you might want to check out the app version. Now, another question that's come up a lot is whether or not you can bring a custom image into the background and then have students write directly on top of it. You'll notice that it doesn't have an option to bring an image in as the background, which is unfortunate. You can still bring an image in, but it's just going to require a couple of extra steps. So I'm going to go over here to Google Slides. And what I did on this Google slide was just make a quick graphic organizer by inserting a 2-row, 2-column table and then resizing it. So to bring this into Jamboard, I'm just going to go up here to File, Download, and then I'm going to download this Google slide as an image. Then what I'll do is go back to Google Jamboard and I'll select Image and then find that image on my computer. You'll notice that the image comes in kind of small. So in order to make it fit on the background, you're going to have to drag the corners to make it stretch and look like it's basically taking up the entire Jamboard. And you can do things like add another text box here to add a label on top. And then I'm going to hit the blue share button to get the link that I can share with my students. Notice how right now I have it set up so that anyone with the link can edit this document. This way I don't have to enter student emails, but sharing it this way also comes with a downside that I'll show you in a second. So now we're looking at a split screen with the teacher view and the student view. And now the student would be able to fill out the graphic organizer so they could do something like add a sticky note here. Another question that's come up a lot is whether or not there's a revision history and how you can figure out which student wrote on the board. Unfortunately, Google hasn't really solved either of those issues yet. There's still no revision history, and the only way to see what a student has written or done on the Jamboard is by tracking the little icon that pops up immediately when they write on the board. And remember how I also said that there's a downside to creating a shareable link so that anyone on the internet can edit? If you do that, when students sign in, they'll just have this anonymous animal icon affiliated with their account. So in this case, it would be pretty much impossible to know who had written on the board. If you want students' initials to show up, you'll have to change the share setting so that only people with specific email domains can access that Jamboard. That will help a little bit by allowing you to see which students are in Jamboard, and then you can also see really quickly when they're writing on the board. But after they've written on it and posted, it's still going to be impossible for you to tell who put up that post. And another thing to consider is that once students are added as editors, if they were to choose the select tool and then select the image that you had just added to Jamboard as the background, they would still be able to select it and delete it. So it's not like that image is completely fixed to the background. If you want another free digital whiteboard program where you can fix the image to the background and where you have significantly greater control, then you might want to check out another program like whiteboard.fi, and I will be making a tutorial about that program as well. One quick thing to note though is that that's a personal whiteboard program as opposed to a collaborative one like Jamboard. One question that's also come up is whether or not you're able to make a copy of your Jamboard in the same way you would a Google Doc or a Google Slide. The answer is yes, you can. And to do that, just go up to the 3-dot drop-down menu and select Make a Copy. There you can choose where you want the copy to go, as well as whether or not you want to keep the same share settings. And the last thing I want to show you here is how you can also use Google Classroom to make a copy of a Jamboard for all of your students. So I'm here in the assignment editor, and let's say that I made a template in Google Jamboard that I want to push out to each of my students, and I just want them to be able to edit it, and I want to be able to do things like jump in and give them feedback. I'll go down here to attach a file, find that Jamboard in my Google Drive, click Insert, and then select to make a copy for students. Just like if you did this with a Google Doc or Google Slides, now a student will have their own personal copy of the Jamboard that they can write on. So this could be a good option for doing something like setting up an interactive notebook. So with these updates, Google Jamboard is a little bit more functional as an educational tool, but of course it still has some limitations as well. Some good news is that Google Meet and Google Jamboard are soon going to have a direct integration. So when Google releases that update, I'll be sure to make a video about that as well. In the meantime, if you have any other ideas, tips, or strategies for using Google Jamboard, or if you still have some questions about how to use it, go ahead and put those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching my video to the end. If you found the tips that I shared helpful, please share it with other teachers that you know, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of my weekly updates. You can also check out some of the other tutorials I have on my channel by clicking on one of those 2 videos above. And if you're interested in downloading any of the resources that I've created and show on my videos, please visit my website at www.newedtechclassroom.com. Lastly, if you want to check me out on social media, my Twitter handle, Facebook page, and Pinterest account are all in the description below. Thanks so much and have a great week.